The night my mother handed me the microphone, the playlist still looping perfect and champagne sweating on white linens, she smiled like a magician and asked me to announce my gift, pay the $27,000 venue, while cameras waited for my nod. I had already frozen my credit, filed an identity theft report, and hired a lawyer, because the contract they forged with my name had a clock ticking, pay by Monday or the venue would send collections after me, not them. You're watching Revenge Files. Subscribe for a new twist daily. I live in Columbus, Ohio, and I have a steady, ordinary job scheduling freight at a hospital network. My days are measured in pallets, deadlines, and signatures that mean something. My family treats signatures like confetti. That's how I ended up on a Saturday night in May at the Pemberton House in German Village, staring at a ballroom chandelier and a crowd that believed I was about to buy my little sister's dream. It wasn't a question the way my mother said it. It was theater. She pivoted toward me in sequins, gripped my elbow, and murmured, "Announce your gift." The MC dipped the music. Phones lifted. The air smelled like garden roses and rented happiness, except I had already spent Tuesday night with a banker, Wednesday with a police officer, and Thursday in a law office on East Gay Street signing an engagement letter for $8,200. Not for a venue, for a different kind of stage. My sister Lila is 28 and collects emergencies. Lost keys, lost rent, lost loyalties whenever someone with a louder voice offers her a softer couch. She'd been dating Evan for a year and a half. He's a salesman with the teeth to match. 2 months earlier, her texts turned syrupy and specific. Could I spot a photography deposit just until Friday? Could I help with bridesmaid dresses because the shop won't hold them without a card? It added up like water in a basement. Slow, cold, dangerous. Then, on the first Monday in May, my phone vibrated with an Experian alert at 6:13 a.m. New inquiry. Event Services Columbus, LLC. A soft inquiry looks like a shrug. This one read like a finger pressed in my credit file. I was brushing my teeth, reading it twice, mint foam burning my tongue. I hadn't shopped anything. I called my mother. She said too fast, maybe it's a mistake. I called Lila. She let it ring. I called the number on the alert. A cheerful assistant named Tasha answered at the Pemberton House. She asked for my guarantor name. When I said my name, she said, "Bright as silverware. Yes, you're on the booking. Congratulations." I asked for the contract. She forwarded a DocuSign envelope within minutes. I opened it at my desk with a coffee I suddenly couldn't swallow. My name was there, typed in by H.M. Keaton. My middle name was wrong. Only my mother ever spells it with an extra E, because she insists that's the elegant way. The e-sign certificate listed a completion time of 10:42 p.m. on May 1 and an IP address. My IP ends in 31. This one ended in 09. My mother's house has a different router. The certificate also noted the signer used a Gmail address that looked like mine if you squinted through Steam. hannahkeaton.finance@gmail. I don't have a finance Gmail. I didn't cry. I printed. I highlighted. I called my bank and froze my card. I placed fraud alerts at Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, then a full credit freeze. I filed an FTC identity theft report and got a case number that felt like a shield, 1429 CO 6118. I walked into the Franklin County Sheriff's Annex on Alum Creek Drive on Wednesday morning and made it real in ink. The deputy wrote slowly, pronouncing guarantor like a new fish. He handed me a card with his direct line and said, "Keep screenshots. People get bold before weddings." Then I called a lawyer. I found Renee Porter through a friend at work who'd used her for a messy landlord squabble. Her office had forest green walls and a whiteboard that cataloged suffering in tidy boxes: dispute, demand, file, serve, negotiate. She asked me for evidence. I slid over the DocuSign certificate, the wrong middle name, the IP address, the credit alert. She asked how much money I had already fronted over the past year. I didn't have an exact number, only a ledger in my head. She told me to put it on paper. That night I dumped a shoebox of receipts onto my kitchen table. Uber rides, grocery drop-offs, a $600 deposit for an apartment Lila left in 3 months, a $120 charge for a dress she said she'd Venmo tomorrow, never tomorrow. I lined them up by month. The total stared back at me like a mistake I kept making, $3,982.14. I squared the corners of each stack and felt my face go hot. Then I wrote 3 dates on a sticky note and pressed it to my fridge. May 28th, engagement party, May 29th, Monday demand deadline, June 2, if they ignore us, file. Renee drafted a 10-day demand letter anyway. She addressed it to my mother, to Lila, and to Evan. She copied the Pemberton house. It gave them two options: acknowledge the forged signature and remove my name from the booking within 10 days, and pay my past out-of-pocket expenses plus her retainer, or face a civil complaint for fraud, conversion, and identity misuse, with an application for an injunction and a request for fees. She emailed it on Thursday at 10:03 a.m. Certified mail same day. Process server scheduled for Saturday evening if theatrics are required. I asked, are theatrics necessary? She capped her pen, considered the ceiling light, and said, if they made it public, make the truth public. You don't owe them a private rescue. I didn't sleep much on Friday. The group chat my mother runs for Keaton women chimed at 1:07 p.m. with a photo of rose gold, balloons, and a caption, tomorrow we start forever. Someone asked about my dress. My mother wrote, Hannah is bringing the class in the check. I put my phone face down on the counter and counted to 7. Saturday came glossy and humid. German village leans into brick and nostalgia. The Pemberton house smells like old money and lemon oil. The front room had a guest book with white gold ink and a sign, share your wishes for Lila and Evan. I wrote nothing. I watched my mother float through the room like she was being filmed. At 7:20 she took the mic and told a meandering story about the day Lila was born, how the nurse said she has a star in her hand, which wasn't true but had been told so often it had a shape. Then she smiled at me the way she smiles when she thinks she's placed a chess piece I can't knock over. Hannah has a special gift, she said. She loves big. She's covering the venue so our couple can start without debt. Isn't that just our Hannah? Applause is a strange wind. It blows even if you shake your head. It poured over me as she extended the mic. I took it because a microphone turned sideways in a mother-daughter tug-of-war would have looked worse than any headline they were writing in their heads. I said, into the quiet that follows a magic trick, Mom, you're right about one thing. I do love big. So big that I don't pay for lies. My gift isn't the venue. My voice didn't tremble. I had already rehearsed it at my sink, toothbrush still in my mouth like a sword. My gift is consequences. The double doors at the back opened. Renee walked in, navy suit, hair scooped into a clean knot, a small stack of manila envelopes under her arm. The MC glanced at the manager. The playlist missed a beat like a heart learning news. Renee joined me at the front. Good evening, she said, not asking for the mic and not needing it. I'm counsel for Hannah Keaton. If you were told she guaranteed this event, you were misinformed. The process server moved with the quiet efficiency of someone used to birthdays and subpoenas colliding. He handed my mother a packet. He handed Lila a packet. He handed Evan a packet. He handed the manager at the Pemberton house a packet addressed to Event Services Columbus LLC. The word notice looked heavy on cream paper. My mother's face staged its own little play. Surprise, quickly edited into pity, then righteous worry. You're ruining your sister's night, she hissed, louder than she meant to. I said, you almost ruined my credit. Evan puffed up, took a step toward me, then saw Renee watching him like a fence sees a bull. He took a step back. Lila picked at her glitter cuff and whispered, we were going to pay you back. It sounded like she was telling herself the end of a story because the middle had gotten ugly. The manager, Tasha, flipped through her packet. Ms. Keaton, she said to me, we'll hold charges and contact counsel Monday. We won't contact you directly. She snapped her folder shut with the relief of someone given a script and a door. The MC called a break. The music turned up again like a curtain being yanked closed. Guests migrated toward the bar in that hungry way people have when they aren't sure where to look. My mother followed me to the foyer. Her perfume had always smelled like weddings, even when we were only going to church. How could you do this? She said, voice tight. Family first. I said, I am family, start there. She gripped my wrist. I looked at her hand until she let go. She whispered, you'll regret this. I said no, but you might. Outside the night felt like wet velvet. I stood on the steps and took a breath. My phone vibrated. Renee, already forwarding me the read receipt from certified mail, like proof of oxygen. By Monday morning, the group chat had turned into a floodplain. You embarrassed us. You couldn't just say yes for once? It's not even that much money to you. I work a regular job. I have a regular savings account. Not that much is for people who believe other people are banks. I ignored the messages, documented every one. Renee said, keep everything. She had to ask twice. The instinct to delete shame is powerful. At 10:12 a.m. my phone rang. My employer's HR number. The vice president of my department asked me to swing by with no rush. The air left my chest in a clean rush. I walked in at 10:30 and sat down across from the HR rep and my boss. They closed the door. They said, as if reading a grocery list, that they had received a call from a woman identifying herself as a concerned family member. She alleged I had embezzled funds and was unstable. I slid a folder across the table. It contained the police report, the FTC report, the demand letter, a timeline, and screenshots of the group chat. I spoke in the measured voice I use with vendors who want rush delivery for free. That caller is the person I reported for identity misuse. If she contacts you again, please route it to legal. I'm happy to answer any questions. My boss has a hard face until someone tells the truth to it. Then it softens. HR thanked me. They documented the complaint as malicious and closed it. As I left, my boss said, "You okay?" That's what decent people ask when they can't fix something. I said, "I will be..." Renee filed the complaint on June 2nd, Franklin County Civil Division. She attached exhibits A through G, the DocuSign certificate, the wrong middle name, the IP address, the frozen credit notices, the police report, the demand letter, and my ledger of past out-of-pocket support. She requested a temporary, restraining order to prevent further accounts opened in my name, and an order prohibiting contact with my employer regarding the matter. The clerk stamped, received June 2nd, 2023. It felt like the moment a doctor puts a cast on a fracture, pain contained, healing invited. My mother did not hire counsel. Lila and Evan did, a man who kept calling my situation a misunderstanding, as if the DocuSign had tripped and fallen onto their laptop. He sent an email offering a family meeting. Renee replied with the hearing date and time, August 14th, 9 a.m., courtroom 8C. The summer became a project. I worked, I ran, I cataloged. I spent evenings at my kitchen table labeling tabs, timeline, exhibits, communications. I bought a simple binder and a pack of those little colored flags that make paper look like a confident parade. I printed everything twice. I added a section titled Silence and Pressure containing screenshots of relatives telling me to be a good sister and remember who wiped your nose. I included receipts for a $35 stop payment fee my bank charged when I blocked a suspicious ACH attempt from Event SVC Columbus. The attempt posted at 2:04 a.m. on June 7 and failed at 2:06. They were either desperate or bold, maybe both. But then one more thing slipped under the door. On July 9th, I received a letter from a caterer 3 cities over, congratulating me on confirming the headcount and reminding me that final payment of $12,500 is due July 20. And thank you for adding your guarantor details. I hadn't added anything. The attached contract showed my name again, typed with the same wrong middle name, and a signature field filled with a neat cursive that tried too hard to look like mine. The letter made my stomach turn fixed and cold. They were expanding the fraud to multiple vendors, like a stain spreading along a tablecloth. Renee added the caterer letter as Exhibit H and requested the court extend the temporary order to all wedding vendors listed in our complaint. The judge granted it in chambers the next day. Vendors now had a copy of a court order saying, effectively, "Do not bill Hannah for anything. I slept 6 hours straight for the first time in weeks." On August 14, I wore a navy dress and flats. My mother wore grief like an accessory. Lila wore a soft cream suit. Evan wore impatience. Their lawyer wore a smile too practiced. The courtroom wasn't grand. Wood pews, flags, a clock that ticked too loudly. Judge Trammell read quietly for 5 minutes. The room hummed with paper and breath. Renee stood and spoke in full sentences that landed like stones. She described the forged contract. She described the wrong middle name. She walked the judge through the e-sign certificate and the IP address originating from my mother's Wi-Fi. She noted that Evan's email appears as a reviewer in the DocuSign envelope history. She slid printouts across the clerk's desk like cards in a fair game. She pointed to the bank's stop payment record and the caterer letter. She concluded by quoting from the messages, "Hannah is bringing the class and the check." Her voice didn't make it sound less cruel. It made it look exactly right. Their lawyer tried to make it small. He said weddings involve emotion. He called the forged signature consent by conduct, then swallowed the phrase like it had splinters. He said they planned to repay me. He said families resolve things. He looked at me and offered a half smile that asked me to be the reasonable one. I looked past him at the wood grain. The judge asked my mother to approach. She did, spine stiff, chin lifted. "Did you sign your daughter's name?" the judge asked. My mother paused, 5 heartbeats long. "I typed it," she said. "It's a family event." The judge nodded as if marking a page. "Miss Keaton," she said to me, "do you have anything to add?" I said, "Only this. I work with paperwork every day. Signatures are promises. My family has used mine as a tool." She looked at my mother. "A tool for what?" My mother said, "For love," and started to cry, messy, convenient tears that dripped at all the right angles. The judge turned back to the bench. She read for another minute, then she spoke for the record. "The court finds, based on the clear preponderance of evidence, that the defendants used the plaintiff's identifying information without authorization to secure services. The court grants a permanent injunction prohibiting the defendants from representing that the plaintiff is a guarantor or payer for any wedding-related service or vendor. The court orders the defendants to reimburse the plaintiff for documented out-of-pocket expenditures totaling $3,982.14 and the bank fee of $35. The court orders the defendants to pay the plaintiff's reasonable attorney's fees, here found to be $8,200 based on counsel's affidavit. The court orders the defendants to notify all vendors listed in Exhibits D and H that any reference to the plaintiff as a guarantor is void and must be removed within 7 days. Written order to follow. I exhaled. It sounded like stepping out of a pool. Their lawyer asked for a stay on fees. The judge said no. He asked to strike the language about contacting my employer. The judge said, "Absolutely not." She set a compliance review for September 5 at 9 a.m. She looked at my mother again, and her gaze softened a degree, the way a teacher's does when the lesson is hard and overdue. "Ma'am," she said, "your daughter is not an ATM." We walked out into a hallway that looked like every hallway in every government building since 1974. Beige tile. Vending machine with more dust than chips. Renee handed me a copy of the order as the clerk printed it. It felt heavier than paper. It felt earned. Lila wouldn't meet my eyes. Evan stared at a bulletin board like it might offer a trap door. My mother reached for my sleeve and said, "Small now? What are you going to do about the wedding?" I said, "Nothing. That's the point." They complied, at least on paper. Vendors emailed confirmations, guarantor removed. The Pemberton house manager, Tasha, sent a professional note. "We received the order. The account now lists only the contracting parties." She included a line I hadn't expected. "I'm sorry this happened to you. Enjoy your weekend." It felt human. I saved it in a folder labeled simply, "Kindness." But then came the bill that wasn't mine. The venue deposit of $3,000 had been paid from Evan's account in April. The cancellation fee for changing packages after August 1 was $1,500. They downgraded to a weekday package and cut the guest list like a bandage. All those smiling RSVPs became regrets. My aunt called to tell me I'd broken something you can't fix. I said it was already broken. I just turned on the lights. On September 5, we returned to court for compliance review. Renee handed the judge proofs of vendor notifications. The judge nodded. She looked at my mother. "Any issues?" My mother said, so quiet I almost didn't hear, "No, Your Honor." "Fees paid?" the judge asked. Renee held up a cashier's check. "Received yesterday," she said. The amount printed in clean block letters, $8,235.14. My name spelled correctly. No extra E. The judge closed the file. "This matter is concluded as to the injunction and fees. Anything further is between family and time. Judicial mercy has an end time, like parking meters and patience." Outside on the steps, my mother tried one more angle. "You embarrassed me," she said. I said, "You endangered me." She blinked. It didn't land. "She's lived a long time in rooms where consequences don't stay for coffee." She whispered, "You'll be lonely without us." I pictured my apartment, my plants that weren't dying, my little row of library books, the friends who brought over tacos the night after the engagement because they knew silence can bruise. I thought about how peace looks nothing like an empty chair and everything like a boundary. "I'm not," I said. The wedding they eventually had was a Tuesday evening potluck at a community center off Parsons Avenue. Fluorescent lights, a Bluetooth speaker that cut out every third song, a sheet cake that said best day because there wasn't time for anything longer. I wasn't invited. Peace tastes like water. It's plain until you remember you were thirsty. In October, a letter arrived at my apartment from my mother. The handwriting downstairs looked like the loops she taught me in 2nd grade. Inside was a photograph from a summer when we were both young enough to think it would always be simple. She had written, "I did what I thought I had to do. No apology." Just a sentence that sounds like a coat someone wears because they refuse to buy a new one. I put the photo back in the envelope. I slipped it into the back of the kindness folder anyway. People are complicated, so am I. Work got quieter. I learned how to cook one thing well every Sunday afternoon. I ran in the mornings until the air bit. On November 1st, I met with a financial counselor at my credit union. We reviewed my credit report line by line. We lifted the freeze to allow a card increase I applied for on purpose. We set alerts with a kind of ceremony. I walked out with a folder labeled protection plan and felt, for the first time in months, like my name sat where it belonged, on paper I had signed with a pen in my hand. Every once in a while I still replay that moment with the mic, the way my mother's fingers pressed crescents into my arm, the way applause can feel like a trap and also like a test. The way the room shifted when I said consequences and meant it. People think revenge is a grand slam. It's usually a series of clean singles. Freeze your credit. Print your proof. Hire help that knows where the levers are. Show up. And when the judge says your name spelled right, listen to how it sounds in a room with wood, flags, and rules that didn't forget you. I didn't buy a venue that night. I bought a boundary and paid for it with hours, with evidence, with a spine that learned to stand up under a chandelier. The gift I announced wasn't glitter. It was a line in ink, and on the other side of that line, my life got smaller in all the best ways. Quieter, clearer, mine.